He runs, what's the exact name of the business coaching
Buying
business?
online businesses.
And that's buyingonlinebusinesses.com is the site and everything.
Yep, buyingonlinebusinesses.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, great. Well, yeah, and I essentially wanted to hop on a call and share this probably on my YouTube channel somewhere. So yeah, because I know you have a lot of experience and I think a lot of value to add. So yeah, I just wanted to have a chat for a little while and yeah. So the first thing I wanted to chat about is how did you get into entrepreneurship and business in general?
Mate, the long road. I sucked at the start, I'll tell you that much. I think the first thing I ever tried was one of those MLMs, multi-level marketing. I think it was called Manatech. I don't know I was still living at home. I don't know what my parents were thinking at the time. But I got sold into one of those things. And not that I'm dubbing them MLMs bad. They are a good income stream. They're just a lot of hard work. And at the end of the day, you don't have a level of control. And I think control is very important. So, yeah, I started off doing that quite young. Even before that, probably, I was, saving money to buy a little boat when I was quite young, washing cars and all that sort of stuff. Worked my way into it. And then I kind of left that by the wayside and became a plumber. And did that for quite a while until I realized I just hated working so much. And through traveling, like I know that you do a lot of travel as well. I did an 8-year stint. In an 8-year stint, I was away from home for about 4 to 5 years, racked up over 30 countries and stuff like that. And through that time, coming backwards and forwards from home, I realized at home I hated my life. So that's why I turned to the internet. I literally jumped onto Google at one stage and typed in how to travel the world and make money online. I think so many people do that. And that led me to struggling in different ways until I'm where I'm at now, buying them. 90% of startups fail. And that's why I think you're in a good space as well, selling businesses that have a proven track record. And, for us as buyers, it just cuts the learning curve so quickly.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's something. So I recently did 1 or 2 videos about I guess that period just before you finally kind of find a business that works. You really kind of understand what you really want to do, and you don't kind of look back to having a job and so on. For me, it was I kind of learned very young, and I am very young. But for me, like I gave up many times, and I'll talk about in the last video I put on my YouTube channel about building business, entrepreneur confidence and conviction. So like someone I was chatting with, he asked me a question like, how do you know whether you should go into a certain business if a business is going to succeed? And I kind of broke it down with him. I'm like, there's like the business validation. So like you can validate the business, you make a sale, and it's profitable, it makes sense. There's also like, how do you know yourself as an entrepreneur? How do you have the confidence and the conviction to pursue something? Any business basically. I feel like that's the actual hard part. Making that leap from being a plumber and then stopping being a plumber and going into your own business. For me, it was my first ever business was just a affiliate marketing business where at the time I was working at McDonald's for like $8.60 an hour with burgers. And like on weekends I was unloading shipping containers. I'm like, I really hate this. Like I hate the fact that I need to, one is like a level of like, not a disdain for authority, but like, I just realized like, I'm not going to,
bit of a misfit.
have a boss.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Bit of a rebel, bit of a misfit. I think all entrepreneurs are a bit, rebellish and misfits, and we do some really crazy, dumb things sometimes, but some of the crazy things we do are huge payoffs. And like you said, it's so freaking hard. Like, your journey from, getting $8 an hour working, in fast food. I was also the same. I think I was getting like $5.50 an hour at Red Rooster.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that journey from there to where you're at now, where I'm at now, is like a long freaking road. And like most people give up. Like you're only human. Like you're not like indestructible at times. You got emotions and you got this big bag of stuff that you're carrying around trying to deal with at the same time. I think I've got a mentor, and last time I chatted to her, and she's a spiritual mentor. So I pay a lot of money to a lot of different mentors. She's a spiritual mentor. And she said, wow, you've really, like, I've struggled really hard as an entrepreneur. She's looked back along my timeline and stuff, and I have. And she said, like, the best thing about it is this, it's not just an entrepreneurial journey, like it's a spiritual journey as well. Like it's a growth journey. It's a personal development journey. And if you can't knock those things, like the biggest thing that holds me back is me.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the same
definitely.
probably with anyone.
No, I think that's so true. Like I was talking with someone I was helping mentor a few days ago, and we ended up having a 3-hour conversation off that one question, how do you know whether to go into a business? And I was really talking about how to build that business confidence and entrepreneur confidence and conviction. And I think it's so tied into, at least for me, like it's so tied into my own development and my own personal, my own demons, dealing with my demons. Because like you said, like a lot of people give up. I remember many times, I started my first affiliate marketing business when I was 15. I quit McDonald's. I quit my job unloading shipping containers. I'm like, I don't need this anymore. I'm an entrepreneur. I can do this forever now. I can make money. Sitting in bed. It's just a life. And then 2 or 3 years later, I finished high school and I sold a few. Actually, I sold that business and 1 or 2 other affiliate businesses that I built up. And I just got lazy. I got distracted by, some of my own demons and stuff. And I ended up back, unloading shipping containers. And I was there for about a month. And then I realized, like, I'm only here because I allow myself to be here. I didn't burn the boats. And then, that's one time I went back to having a job rather than, pursuing an entrepreneur career. And that happened 2 more times where I took better jobs. The other one was like a fintech job. And the third one was a recruitment job. And every single time I realized, like, I shouldn't be here. Like, 1, like, I can't have a boss. 2, I can't work, certain hours. I'm just going to work the hours that work best. I can't fit into a corporate structure. And the way I do business and the way I talk, it's like, it's not made for the corporate world. Like a 21-year-old kid can't just, go into like corporate Japan, which is the recruitment job that I got, and start, succeeding. It's just too different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess on that note, like, what was some of your, did you have times where you kind of went to go get a job again instead of, focusing on entrepreneurship, or did you always, you checked into entrepreneurship and you stayed on that road?
Yeah, for sure. Like back in 2010 and 2009 and 2010, I did a snow season, one in Canada and one in America. So I was living between Australia and America. And after I'd done all that and I'd been through down Central America and spent like a good 10 months on one of those legs, came home, I was like, I had finished my plumbing apprenticeship. I was like, I'm going to start my own gig as a gas plumber because gas plumbers make more money than just regular plumbers. So I'm like, fuck, hell yeah, I'm going into gas. And I came home and there was just I couldn't even find work as a gas plumber, for somebody else, let alone start my own business as a gas plumber. Yeah. So I did, I had my tail between my legs and I went back to my old company. Took me back every time. There was a certain period of time that I would not let my family or friends post anything on Facebook about me being at home because somebody from that company would find out and go, hey, you're back. When are you coming back? And because it's so easy to just rope you back in with like, $1,200 a week, $1,000 a week for what I was doing. That's like a barrier that holds you back from doing, like burning the boats, like you said before. So yeah, there were many times that I came back to plumbing and back to a previous job. Yeah. One thing that I think is important, like when you're coaching somebody, when a mentee comes to me and say, hey, Jaryd, I want to buy a business. I'd like to see what their goals are and stuff like that. And, a lot of people used to go, hey, Jaryd, like I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to buy a business. And I'm like, no, don't do it. Like it's people have this mentality of like, I'm just going to stop one thing and start something else. But there's this in-between buffer period where you may not be earning an income stream. And that
Yeah.
not having that financial income stream coming in or having at least money in the bank, it puts more stress on you, puts financial stress on you. And that's when you
Yeah.
start making emotional decisions towards purchasing a
100%.
business or even anything in life. You start to get stressed and you can ruin your relationship. You can
Yeah.
ruin things that you've been building for years. So I think it's important to not just go, all right, I'm just going to quit this $1,000 a week job and go away and look at buying a business that may take me 3 to 6 months to do. Or start, the worst is like when you start an online business or start any business, like quit this and go all into a startup. It's like the years and years and years that need to go into it to get to a point where you're making $1,000 a week again. Most
Yeah.
people, not 90% of startups fail. Most people don't get that. And yeah, I think quitting one thing too early is cutting your legs out from underneath you.
For sure. I think, I mean, in my experience, I'm always like, I'm either going to do something 100% or not at all. Like very black and white, which, I mean, purely because of that reason, I've had so many years of like being broke sometimes, having enough money, being broke, and just going back and forth. I think you're right in terms of having like actually planning a period of time. So, okay, these 6 to 9 to 12 months, I have my savings, or I'm going to have this part-time job. And I'm going to devote this much time per day, and actually just set aside some time, set aside some money, and still have cash flow coming in, or at least savings. I mean, the first time I really planned to build a business was what I did with e-commerce brokers now. Every other time was because I needed money immediately. And like my first e-commerce business, HSC Notes, I started that. I remember it was like a Friday night. I was watching a movie. I realized I had negative $200 in my bank account. I show my friend. He's like, "Fuck, how are you gonna pay rent on Monday?" It was like $400. I go, "Okay, I have an idea." And then within 3 to 4 days, I basically just like put out a poll on Facebook, and started messaging people, "Would you buy this? Would you buy that?" And then we put this product together within 48 hours. And Monday morning, we actually had like 2 or 3 grand. But that was like extremely stressful period. I barely slept, and it wasn't a long-term solution to the problem. And every other business I've made after that, except the e-commerce brokers, wasn't planned. It wasn't properly mapped out. I didn't write down exactly how it's going to work for me as a part of the business, right? But with e-commerce brokers, what I did is like, okay, I know this is something I've done in the past, selling my businesses, helping friends sell their businesses. I have a bunch of savings. Let's actually set these 6 months. And if I don't get a sale that, clearly indicate to validate the business and indicate to me that it can actually financially support me, I'm going to go do something else. And those savings and I actually planned it out. I set up the time span, actually, like, surprise, worked out, rather than just, we'll see what happens and being emotionally and, financially unstable going into it.
Yeah, it's so good having that fire burning up your ass or something, those things backing you into the corner. And that lesson alone that you mentioned, one thing, like, I listen to people very intently because there's so many lessons in what other people's experiences are. And I've had a similar experience to you, is that, sometimes people will go like, I need the quick fix. And this is what society is with social media, and our attention spans is so quick, because we want the quick fix. And a lot of people say, I just want to make some money. I want to make some money online. They forget that if you plan this out like you did, if you do it for the long term and you get into business, for a lot of people, like billionaires and stuff, say you should get into business for life, then trying to make a bit of money in the short term doesn't matter, because you're going to be in business for life. And the same, if somebody's going to come and buy a business from you, which I suggest they do, is they shouldn't, like, it may be a flip, right? And maybe they want to, they don't have to hold on to it for 10 years, but maybe they hold on to it for 3 years or 2 years, but think of that long term. And then, these immediate little actions or emotional little things that you're trying to do to make it win overnight, you're not making dumb decisions. And, you can see that you've built something, like with your brokerage, you built it from the ground up, grassroots, over a longer time frame. And what you build over a longer time frame has far better solid foundations, right? It's not going to go anywhere. Like, you built it in 3 months, it's not going to go away in 3 months like a lot of people's businesses do.
Yeah, and that's so true. Like, in terms of my my marketing agency that I used to have, Moulos Media, anytime I would have a client that might complain, that was like I would always have like half a panic attack because I'm like, oh my God, no way. He's complaining, he wants something changed, and I'm so worried. But it's like now it's like if a buyer or a seller has, some complaint and it's usually with the other, if the buyer has a complaint with the seller, or the seller has a complaint with the buyer, it's like, okay, we'll sort this out. Like, I'm not going to, cry about something that, worst case scenario, if they don't like the seller, okay, don't buy it. If they don't like the buyer, okay, well, don't worry about the buyer. Well, I've built up a foundation and a brand now that we can go out find another buyer. We can go out find another seller. And sometimes it really sucks. One time, late last year, we had a sale of like 280K site, and we got like 2 months into due diligence. And then last minute, I remember it was around Christmas, the buyer said, nah, I'm out of it. And he didn't even give a good reason why. And then like it felt heartbreaking for me and the seller. But I was like, you know what, like, it's okay. This is a solid business. I have a solid service that, we can go out there and sell this business regardless. And just because you have that foundation, and I'm looking over the next 10 years for this business, like you said, long term, not, just for a quick cash grab. I'm not too worried about it. Where usually I literally remember having panic attacks because some clients wanted to like renegotiate terms. I'm like, oh my God, no, I'm going to lose my income stream. And to be honest, every single time I went back to go for another job, even if it was like a shit job, it was because I thought, okay, if I'm in credit card debt and, I'm not making enough cash flow, it's always just been to, oh, let's go get this shit job so I can have some cash flow coming in, some, pay off some debts. And in the long term, it never did. Like, it didn't even resolve my financial problems. Not to mention how I felt about the business or like having a job personally. But yeah, no, that's an interesting one. Another thing I wanted to ask is, how have you found, I guess, mentoring and mentoring people and finding mentors? How did you get into, and what was your strategy behind finding mentors and then eventually finding mentees, I guess?
My first strategy was just sucking and losing a lot of money and trying to do it myself because I wanted to do it the cheap way. I think somebody said, I went to a lot of seminars. I was, I guess I coined this, and we can bleep this out if you want, but I was a seminar slut at a certain time where I was just going from free seminar to free seminar to free seminar. I picked up a lot of information, but you get what you pay for. And in some of those seminars over the years, like probably 3-4 years before I even found out or even took the step in finding a mentor, I heard people saying you need to have like a mentor, you need to have a coach, you need like, people who are watching this are probably like, they know Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins has a freaking coach. Like, he's like, a lot of people see him as the alpha and the omega. Like Donald Trump, he is the president and he has a freaking mentor. Like, he has so many mentors. Nobody's an exception. So yeah, my path to that was a struggle. I tried to, I thought that, and a lot of people come to me as well and want to get some coaching and buy a business, and they want to do it the cheap way. And I just say, look, it's, if you can't afford my services, then you're not there. Like, you're not there. Not that I charge so much money. It's actually quite cheap in my opinion. But it's just, if you're penny picking, then you're not ready to, like, you haven't made the mindset shift to go, I'll do whatever it freaking takes. So for example, like the first time you pay for a mentor, it might be like 10 to 20 grand or, and up to 30 to 50 grand or 100 grand or whatever it is, depending on what level you're at. But that first one, I think it might have been, for me, it might have been 20 grand or 15 grand. It was a lot of money, but I knew that, like, what I was coming back to the mindset that I said before is like, when I'm getting into this business, I'm going to be in this business for the long haul. So I'm going to get my ROI back on that eventually. And it's an investment that you need to make. So that's where my journey started with that. In terms of me coaching and becoming a mentor, I was invited to Thailand a while ago now, many years ago, and just to a business retreat. I had, I owned 3 businesses at the time. And I went there and I was an attendee and I was learning from these people. And then a lot of people were asking me questions. I was there for 3 days, asking me questions in between sessions and hanging out with them around the pool and just grilling me about my businesses and what I'm doing and what's working. And within the last day, we went on like a bit of a retreat, and people are on the bus like, dude, like, can you just jump up on stage and start teaching us? Or like, can you start teaching? And not that I had like worlds of experience at that time in my life, but that's where people started to go, hey, like, I want your help. Like, I didn't even know you could buy a site. They're all struggling to start their own website businesses. And here I am going like, these poor freaking people have been sold into what I had just been sold into. Like those people that go to seminars, and there's like, it might be 100 people in a seminar or 1,000 people in a seminar, and 100 people buy the $1,000 course. Those people that are speaking are taking 100 people's money, and they know that 90% of those people are going to fail. So only 10 people in the room are probably going to get past that learning curve and make some money, not be a massive success. And I'm thinking to myself, like, these poor freaking people. So it came out of like a bit of people wanting it, but also serving as well. And then as I traveled I wasn't ready to teach. I still had to get this travel lifestyle out of my system. So I traveled for 2 years, and then I came home, was like, all right, let's sit down and let's change some lives. So that's how it sort of slowly eventuated.
Yeah. How did you, a big thing for me, and I find it, I mean, I'm very young, which always plays on my mind in terms of how I see my opinion and my advice. I've always like, I think less so now, having like served like so many customers and they see the value. So it's like, okay, you see the value, I can have confidence in myself. But how did you kind of take that leap to say, you know what I'm saying in my opinion and my advice is valuable? Because for a long period of time, I felt like when people come to me and they're just like, oh, can I just have some advice? I'm like, why would you want advice off me? Like, I'm just trying to survive here. Like, how did you make that leap?
So a big part of it was from that retreat. Sometimes you need to have people value you more than you value yourself at a particular time. So that was a particular time where people were valuing me more than I valued myself. I know that I value myself. Like, I know that I'm valued. I know my opinion matters to a lot of people. And that comes from what we were talking about earlier in like building our confidence, the years and experience.
Yeah.
Like, at that particular time where people saw a lot of value in me and I didn't see it in myself, I kind of like pushed it aside. And that's why I went traveling. I still didn't feel like I was ready or I was that valuable. And I started piecing together the business of teaching people to buy. And then I started giving it away to it like a small group of family and friends. And they didn't value it because they didn't know how much I'd learned in this time frame. They did nothing with it. And then when I started charging people, and that was a big leap. I didn't know whether people were going to pay or not for like what I was my info product and my support. I didn't know. Yeah. So I was just like, fuck it. I'm just like, I think I'm going to try this. I know this is going to be valuable people. I knew that what I had learned was valuable, but I didn't see myself as like, I didn't have an ego attached to that. Hey, I'm this valuable person. I was more doing it from a service. And then when that started working and people started buying businesses and like replacing their income and like living this totally different lifestyle, I was like, oh crap, like I've learned a lot. And it's not just me. It's like, I've learned stuff from other people. It's not me. It's that there's an ego wrapped around it. It's like, I'm just channeling what I learned to other people to help them. And, I think that's where it started to happen is I started to value myself more when I saw I was able to change people's lives at a different level. And that's when, a lot of friends and family have no idea, no idea that I've changed people's life like this, and they don't value me in that sense either. And that's okay. Like, I don't want to be seen as a different person to the people that I love most.
Yeah, definitely. No, that definitely makes sense. I think, for me, I found it very difficult at the start to find mentors. And it's always an interesting journey to be like, so when I was 15 in high school, I went to like through the alumni of the school and trying to find entrepreneurs and mentors like that. And then even like, because I went to a decent private school, I went to like my friends' dads and had like coffees with them and asked them questions. But
that's awesome.
I went through that kind of process, and then I went through like a seminar process, like after high school, meeting entrepreneurs like that, startup community. So I started off with a very wide and a different, diverse range of mentors, like 60-year-old, property magnates in Sydney to like startup entrepreneurs, and it was all very different and diverse. But I think the most valuable thing is focusing on like what kind of mentor you want. So for me, for example, my first real mentor that I'm like, this is someone I need to like really listen to. Because I had a bunch of like 50 and 60-year-old guys who are like property guys and like old money basically. It's sitting out, and they gave a lot of good advice, but it just wasn't relevant anymore. Like, save your money. I'm like, that doesn't help me, man. Like, I know to save my money. Like, entrepreneurship wise, what can you? And my first mentor was Rowan Coons, and he has the biggest one-on-one tutoring company in New South Wales and Victoria, and he was very tech focused, and he had very specific advice that I could use. So it was like a perfect match there. And then my second mentor who I ended up living with, doing business together, and we're good friends to this day, it was Jaryd Krause, and he's a growth marketer, growth hacker, and it was instantly like, I mean, I learned more from him than probably anyone else ever. School, everything put together, I probably learned more from him than anyone. And I think having relevant mentors is definitely a thing. And it was always also very weird now, because now people are like saying, because I'm advertising more, I'm doing a few more videos. People are like, oh shit, George is, on top of his shit now. Let me get some advice. And it is hard to make that leap. But as you said, like, I feel like the people that, family and very close friends will never kind of see you in that light or understand, which is fine. It is, that is what it is. And that's fine. But it's always a weird fix when you're like, oh, I want to, help my family make money online, because it feels like the smartest option. But some people are just, it's like, how open are you to learning and to listening to people? And how much ego do you go into it with?
Yeah. Like with friends and family, I see that they may need help with something. I don't push my stuff onto them, and I don't want like a different hierarchy thing. Like, I'm an equal with them. So I don't want them to like, unless they asking for help is like the scariest freaking thing as a human being, right? Because we don't want to get like rejected, and then we don't want to accept that, like, all right, I need help with something. It's so freaking hard, let alone somebody that and have a close connection with. That's really, really hard. I like that you had close connections when you're, coming out of school, and close alumni and stuff like that. That's so valuable. Because when you ask me like, how did I find my mentors, or how did I come to that, and I think this is important for the listeners and the viewers, that I didn't have a big network of people, like of people that I could call upon that I knew were doing successful in different areas, like no one, right? Nothing. So I had to like search for people. I asked like my cousin, and he knew a couple of people and gave me a couple of names, and then I had to search for people and see which one fitted better with myself, like my personality and my vibe and my type. And I ended up going with some that weren't so good, and then some that were good. And then from that, mentors know other mentors and coaches and different people in the group. And for now, like, once people start growing, and everybody that's listening or watching now may not be in that position, but once you start paying for mentors, people know people, and what you're doing is you're paying to build your network. And my network, like right now, is invaluable. Like, I will never go away and Google search who am I gonna hire. I'll be like, all right, to my network, who's the best person at this thing? Who's the best person at Facebook ads? Who's the best person at YouTube ads? Who's the best person at SEO? Who's the best person at this? Or who's the best person in the spiritual sense, in the health sense? And then I only go from a network now. I think that's what people like. I think that's my network is more valuable, I would say, than any of my businesses and anything that I have. Like, I think that should be the people's goal rather than the income goal, because you've hit the nail on the head. Like, it's, talking about mentors and network is like probably one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle, or is the puzzle itself, if you look at it in a deeper lens.
That's how I saw, like, even every time I went broke, especially like, when was it? Early 2019, when I was in this funk. I was a bit depressed. I knew that my Moulos marketing agency wasn't working as I wanted it to, and I was just in this funk. And I realized, like, what kind of business should I really focus on? And that's when, in that period, I decided to focus on actually being a broker. And I realized, like right now, if I look at the IP, like, I just hired someone, for example, and I was like, okay,
that's awesome.
We got to sign an employment agreement, NDA, all that stuff. I'm like, what's the real IP in e-commerce focus? Like, what's the real value in the business? And I get down to it because I mean, this is important for me to know. I'm like, okay, it's not like this isn't some crazy idea. It's like, yeah, you're a broker for buying selling businesses. It's not like, it's not some, unicorn $1 billion idea. It's a pretty simple idea. But the IP behind e-commerce brokers is my network. If I didn't have my network, I wouldn't find buyers. I wouldn't find sellers. I wouldn't get referrals. I wouldn't have anything really. So I think about that. I was like, okay, so the real value of this business, and it's funny because, my first big deal, when I came along and I closed it, I felt like, oh, it's been, 12 months in the making from like when I officially started e-commerce brokers to when I got this big sale. But it's like, when I was 15, I was, asking my friends' dads to go get coffees and asking them questions. And then one of them, put me in contact with another mentor. And I said, and I remember I had this list of questions I would always ask my mentors. It was like 20 questions. And the last question was, who are your mentors? So that I could like network and I might meet one and they tell me 5 people, I tell 5 people, and it kind of goes from there. But in that sense, I felt like, this, big deal might feel like it's, only 6 or 12 months in the making, but really it's like 7 years in the making of building out that network and going through all that effort basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's more valuable than anything. Income doesn't.
Yeah, and those lessons that say that you learnt at Macca's, like how to have good work ethic, and Macca's have great systems, like freaking amazing systems. If you've seen the movie The Founders, like those lessons that you that you call upon probably on a daily basis, we forget that, like, holy crap, that was like helped make me who I am today, or helped make my business what it is today, or my network what it is today.
It's really weird to think about, because I think, and I always reflect, especially in quarantine now. I've been quarantined for like 30 days. I'm really like reflecting on on everything, because look, I'm 21 now, and in my head I'm like, okay, I'm actually pretty happy with the journey I've been through. I know there's been a lot of hard times. I'm actually really happy with where I am and my progress. And I look back as to, the biggest reason I like to reflect is like, I'm in the good times now. Everything's good for me. Business is good, and I can't complain. But all the bad times, I think about like, you're not prepared for those times, and the hardest thing is getting out of those bad times. And bad times are going to come again. So I kind of like to reflect as to what helped me get back here, or help me get to the good times, so that I can get out of it in the future. And it's something I think about. So like McDonald's, it's such a good example, because when I worked at McDonald's, I hated the whole experience. Of course I hated it. It's working at McDonald's, I always burn my hands and stuff on the grill and stuff. And I hated having a boss. But one of the things, like you said, the systems and how they do their training. It's so like, they have this huge training course online that's all like very easy. And it's funny because yesterday, here where I'm hiring this new broker, I'm taking him through all these training systems, and as I'm training him, I'm putting together all the training material that I'm going to use for the next person. So even today, I've put on my to-do list, like, I'm going to create a video for how to basically do the first seller call to basically get to list the business, and what you should say in that call, how to close, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to put that in a video, and then put that as a part of a training program online, which McDonald's does fantastically, because they have such good systems. And even further to your point, it's like, I look, I'm still a kid, so I still think about high school a lot. So I'm like, in high school, what did I learn, especially with private schools? Because, there's the whole debate, is a private school, worth sending a kid to over a public school? And I went to a public primary school and a private secondary school or high school. And to be honest, the two most valuable things above everything else that I got from Newington, the school I went to, was I did cadets. So like a junior military thing at school for like 5 years, where I learned proper leadership and delegation and discipline and setting an example, which I use like today in the business. And the second thing was networking to the alumni and all the people who went to that school. Like, it's a private school. People have been like ultra successful in the school. So, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? And I don't know a single other person who's been to, private schools, or at least the group of private schools that myself and my friends went to, who did what I did. Because when I was doing it, people were like, why do you want to speak to my dad? I'm like, he's a successful entrepreneur. Like, of course I want to speak to him. Or like, kids. I remember one kid, I'm like, hey man, I've organized through the alumni to have a coffee with your dad. I'm just going to get him some advice career wise. He's like, no, I don't meet him. That's so weird. I'm like, I don't care. I'm here to network, man. Like, there's value to add. And people were so weirded out by that networking, but I think private schools and high school in general, going through the alumni and networking is like the most valuable thing above all else. Like the education isn't going to change that much, but the alumni and networking is like the biggest thing. And then cadets, if there's some like co-curricular program like that, I think that's really good for leadership and so on. But like you said, all these small stuff from, you know, my history and my past are helping with my day-to-day delegation, leadership, systems. And yeah, it's all just, you know, it's not something I think about, you know, as I'm doing it, but it's like, oh shit, like where the hell did I learn to like delegate properly? So it's like, yeah, it's from, you know, back in the day being in cadets, for example.